Chapter 12. "Hey," I cried out. Something clattered against the glass. A stick? Then a handful of pebbles clicked off the window. "Man, I'm going nuts," I muttered. It wasn't a cat clawing at the window. I peered out at the yard. Dwayne and Barry stood under the large oak tree. They were waving for me to join them. I hobbled over to my closet and pulled on a navy blue sweatshirt. Then I crawled across my bed and slid the window open. I reached out for the tree, grabbed hold of a thick limb with both hands, and pulled my legs behind me. I performed that trick dozens of times, but never with a sore knee. Pain shot up my leg. I nearly lost my grip and fell into the shrubs below. Ignoring the pain, I shimmied down the branch and slid down the trunk to the ground. "Hey, nice outfit," I told Dwayne. "What?" he protested. He stared down at the purple and green Hawaiian shirt he wore. "You mean this? What's wrong with this?" "Well," I replied, "I like it better than the blue one with the pink flamingos." "That's not a Hawaiian shirt," Barry added. "It's a white shirt. Someone threw up on him." Barry and I laughed. "So where to?" I asked. "The corner," Barry replied. "Where else?" The corner is a popular Shadyside hangout about a block from school. We all hung out at the corner a lot, and when I didn't know where to take a girl on a date, we'd wind up there. We stood in line to order, then slid into a booth at the back of the restaurant. We could see everyone who came in. If anybody we knew showed up, particularly girls, we wouldn't miss them. "So, Marty," Barry said with a mouthful of pizza, "what happened yesterday in student court? I mean, you lost it." I froze. "What do you mean?" "You know, seeing the cat." I didn't answer him. "The cat, Marty. The cat. Hello? You said you saw the dead cat under the bleachers," he reminded me. But I didn't need reminding. I gazed at Dwayne, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. "I did see that cat," I insisted. "I know what I saw. It sat there and stared at me." Barry and Dwayne looked stunned. "Kind of the way you're staring at me now," I added sarcastically. "Whoa," Barry exclaimed. "Wait a minute. You really believe you saw the same cat we all watched fall off those bleachers and die? The same cat Dwayne and I threw in the garbage?" "That's right," I replied. I knew it sounded nuts, but these two guys were my best friends. If I couldn't tell them the truth, who could I tell? "Ah, come on," Barry cried. "I saw the cat," I repeated. "Maybe it's not as dead as we thought. Or maybe there was more than one cat living in a gym." They both stared at me, and didn't say a word. Later, we hurried toward my house. If my mother checked in on me after 11 and didn't find me in my room, I would be in big trouble. My knee felt okay, but no way could I climb back up the tree and into my room. I had to go through the front door. I only hoped my parents were asleep. Block before my street, I turned left. "Where are you going?" Dwayne asked. "Can't find your own house in the dark." "We'll cut through the backyards," I explained. "It'll be quicker." I headed for the Millens' house. A stretch of wood separated their backyard from mine. The three of us moved silently up the Millens' driveway. Their house was dark. The night seemed to swallow us up. "Spooky," Dwayne whispered. I heard crickets. Wind rustled the leaves over our heads. We walked along the side of the house. I noticed that the side door hung open behind the glass storm door. As we passed the door, I saw a shape in the darkness beyond the glass. Something watched us. "Hey guys," I whispered. Something slammed against the inside of the storm door. We cried out in surprise. I tensed to run as a snarling dog threw itself against the door again. "Whoa," Dwayne cried. "I'm too young for a heart attack." We hurried through the backyard and reached the narrow path that cut through the small stretch of woods connecting my yard with theirs. "Through here," I told my friends, and we slipped into the woods. A few feet along the path, I could see my house through the trees. The downstairs lights were on, but my bedroom was still dark. I hoped my parents didn't even know I'd gone out. I heard a loud hiss above my head. "Hey," Dwayne shouted. I heard the screech of an animal from a tree branch above us. Then a thud. Something landed heavily on Barry's head. "Help me," he gasped. Chapter 13. "Get it off me," he screamed. "Get it off." A cat! Barry desperately wrestled with it, but it hung onto his head with its claws. Dwayne picked up a big branch and swung it over his shoulder. "Stop!" I cried. "You'll hit Barry." Dwayne dropped the branch. I dove at Barry, grabbed the cat with both hands, and pulled it off his head. I dropped the screeching cat on the ground. Dwayne stuck a foot under its belly and kicked it deep into the woods. I heard it crash through branches and bushes, howling all the way. "Oh, wow," Barry moaned. "Oh, wow." "Barry, let me see your face," I said. I squinted through the darkness. His cheeks were scratched, but nothing too deep. You're okay, I told him, but someone should look at those scratches. Was that it, Marty? He asked. Was that the cat? No way, man, Dwayne chimed in. That other cat is dead, remember? I remembered all right, but as dark as the woods were, I had a good look at the cat that attacked Barry. I was pretty sure I'd seen a black diamond on its forehead. Marty? Barry asked. No, I replied firmly. That cat is dead, Barry. That cat is dead. The next night, Saturday, I started my community service at the Shadyside Animal Shelter. A one-story square building, the shelter offered help to all kinds of animals, but most of their customers were stray cats and dogs. The manager, Caroline Peters, seemed really nice. I asked what my duties were. She told me she wanted me to sweep the floor, feed the animals, and call her at home if any of them appeared to be sick. A breeze. Most nights, they needed me at the shelter by 7 o'clock, when Caroline left for the night. Between 9 and 11, a night watchman came on, and I was free to go home. That first night, I started with the sweeping. After a while, I entered the kennel area. Leaning my broom against the wall, I crouched down to look at the animals. On the left, dogs snoozed in 2 long rows of cages stacked too high. On the right, cats prowled in the same setup. A few of the cages housed more than one animal. A yellow-eyed gray tomcat stared at me from a bottom cage. Without warning, it hissed and arched its back. Yeah, the same to you, buddy, I muttered. I thought about what had happened to Barry the night before, and a shiver ran through me. I didn't want to be around cats any more than I absolutely had to be. At 9 o'clock, I'd feed them. After that, I would settle in the small office and study. That way, I wouldn't have to spend much time with the cats, and my allergies wouldn't act up. I picked up the broom and turned to leave the kennel, but a sharp thud made me spin around. Who's there? I demanded. Is someone back there? No reply. I saw a small light flash across the dark room. Then the animals came alive. The dogs began to bark and howl. The cats began to hiss and screech. I clapped my hands over my ears, trying to block out the terrifying noise. Stop it! I screamed. Stop it! The animals heaved themselves against their cages. The hissing and shrieking grew louder. Louder. Stop it! I screamed. Stop it! What's going on? Chapter 14. Stop it! Stop it! I shrieked. I pressed my hands tighter against my ears, but I couldn't shut out the sound of their cries. Cats clawed at their cages, screeching, hissing, their mouths pulled back in fierce sneers, their eyes flashing and wild. Dogs tossed back their heads and howled. Please, I begged, my heart pounding. Holding my ears, I turned and ran from the room. I slammed the office door behind me, but I couldn't shut out the noise. I dove for the desk, grabbed the phone in a trembling hand, and punched in Caroline's number. Come quick, I managed to choke out. Please, hurry. Something is wrong. Something is terribly wrong. But, Marty, she protested, I just got home. What's happening? Just come, I pleaded. Hurry. I waited in the office until she arrived. The screeching and barking didn't let up. I could hear dogs banging against their cages, and over it all, the shrill hiss of cats. About 10 minutes later, I saw headlights in the office window. Caroline's car rolled into the parking lot. Holding my ears, I ran to the front door. I unbolted it and pulled it open. The hissing and screeching stopped. Huh? I let out a sharp gasp. Silence now. Caroline stepped up to the front door. Her eyes anxiously swept over the cages. Marty? What's wrong? She demanded. In the bathroom on Monday, I told the story to Barry and Dwayne. Barry shook his head. Dwayne let out a long whistle. Weird, he murmured. Did the shelter manager believe you? Barry asked. I shrugged. I don't know. She just stared at me. I sighed and shoved my sandwich away. I don't know what to believe anymore. Hey, cheer up, Dwayne urged. It could be a lot worse, Marty. Worse, I replied. How? He thought about it. I don't know, he said finally. We all laughed, but my laughter was forced. On my way out, I was thinking about cats and dogs, and bumped right into someone. Oh, sorry, I mumbled. It was Kit Morrissey. Hi, Marty, she said, and gave me a big smile. What's up? For a few seconds, I couldn't say anything. Kit had moved to Shadyside during the December break. She had quickly become one of the most popular girls in school. Her chestnut brown hair fell to her shoulders and perfectly framed her face. Her eyes were emerald green, swirled with flecks of gold. I fumbled. You were out a couple of days, huh? I was sick. The flu or something, Kit reported. I feel fine now. You look fine, too, I flirted. You're not so bad yourself, Harper, she replied. You went to grab an ice cream or something at the corner after school? I asked. Her eyes narrowed. Don't you have practice? I messed up my knee last week, I explained. I can't really practice. If I miss one day of watching, Coach won't completely freak. Kit tilted her head thoughtfully, then nodded. I met Kit on the side steps of the school, and we walked to the corner. We talked for almost 2 hours. She was really cool. I was falling for her hard. As we were leaving the corner, something made me glance back inside. When I did, I froze. In the back, Ricky sat in the booth by herself. She was glaring at me. I didn't know how long she'd been sitting there. I didn't really care either. Forget it, I thought. Forget her. I turned away and let the door slam behind me. Kit lived on Canyon Road. We strolled down the tree-lined street, chatting comfortably as if we'd always been friends. Cars whizzed by. Several people beeped at us, but I didn't even turn to see who was trying to get our attention. I was feeling very happy. Something really great was happening between Kit and me. We turned up her driveway. She lived in an old brick house with ivy growing across the front wall. "Do you want to come in for a while?" Kit asked. "Or do you have to get home for dinner?" "Not right away," I answered happily. Kit unlocked the door and stepped inside. "What are you waiting for?" I followed her in. She closed the door behind me. I glanced around the front hall. Stairs led to the second floor. A long hallway led to the kitchen. To the left, an arched passage gave way to the living room. "Nice house," I commented. And then I jumped as a black cat came running down the stairs toward us. I heard a meow to my left. A striped cat darted in from the living room. 2 white kittens with spiky fur trotted down the hall from the kitchen. A few feet up ahead, a gray cat sat on its haunches and glared at me. I opened my mouth to say something, but before I could speak, the cats all arched their backs and opened their mouths in a shrill, terrifying hiss. Chapter 15. "Get them away from me," I wailed. Kit laughed. "Marty, relax. They're just hungry." I could feel my face turn red. My legs were shaking. I hoped Kit couldn't see how really scared I was. After the thing with the cat at school, I guess I'm a little messed up," I admitted. "I heard about that," Kit said. She had to shout because the cats were still hissing. "It was an accident, right?" "Yeah," I replied uncomfortably. Kit tossed her backpack to the floor. "Want to hang out for a while? Maybe the cats will all calm down once they get to know you." She didn't want me to leave. I couldn't believe it. Kit actually liked me. If only we weren't surrounded by those annoying hissing cats. "How many cats do you have?" I asked. She grinned. "A few." My eyes swept around the room. Cats were perched everywhere I looked. "I've really got to go," I stammered. "If I don't ace my math test." Kit looked hurt. I felt bad, but those cats, they were really giving me the creeps. And I'm so allergic to them, I could already feel my nose clog up and my face start to puff. "Later," I said, moving to the door. "I'll call you or something, okay?" The black cat brushed against my leg. It arched its back stiffly as it moved past me. A plump white cat with a very long tail let out an angry screech from the stairs. I guess I'd better feed them," Kit said, shaking her head. "It's so odd, Marty. I don't understand it. They've never acted like this before." I just have a way with cats," I joked, and then I ran out of there as fast as I could. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Barry whispered. "We could get in major trouble." "Give me a break," Dwayne snapped. "This is going to go down in history as the greatest gag ever pulled at Shadyside High School." "Marty," Barry asked, waiting for my opinion. "We've got to do it," I answered. "Gail deserves it, man. She still won't let it drop. When she sees us, she acts as if we don't exist. That article in the school paper about my student court trial was the last straw. We were supposed to be in the locker room getting ready for practice, but Dwayne's brainstorm needed to be acted upon right away. The Animal Rights Club met in a first-floor classroom after school every Tuesday. "It's time to teach Gail a lesson," I whispered. Barry still appeared to be worried. "Come on, Barry," Dwayne urged. "Marty took all the heat for the cat incident. We've got to make it up to him somehow, right?" Barry nodded. "Right." I stood outside the closed door of the classroom in which the Animal Rights Club gathered. I could hear Gail droning on inside. At one point, I heard her mention my name. Any doubts I felt about what we were doing totally disappeared. I checked my watch. 7 minutes past 3. Barry and Dwayne would be at the open window by now. Any second now, I thought. Then the screaming started. I heard shrieks and startled cries. "Get them out of here!" a girl cried. "Get them away from me!" "Rats!" a boy shouted. "Hundreds of them!" No kidding, I thought. A grin spread across my face. Barry, Dwayne, and I had stolen a dozen white rats from the biology lab and placed them in a box. At 3:07, Dwayne dumped them through the classroom window where the Animal Rights Club met. The door banged open and the club members started to pour out into the hallway. I saw a couple of rats scurry past me and down the hall. I moved to the open doorway. Gail and 2 other girls were chasing after the rats. "Get them out of here!" Gail cried. At that moment, she saw me. "Did you have anything to do with this?" "Of course not," I replied, but I couldn't keep a straight face. I heard laughter from outside the window. Dwayne and Barry. Gail shot a nasty glance their way. The guys ducked, but Gail ran over to the window. "I see you," she screamed. "I see you, you jerks. You're in major trouble." "And so are you," she barked at me. "Me?" I asked innocently. "What did I do?" "I'm going to get you for this, Marty," Gail snarled. "This isn't over, not by a long shot." "Yes, it is," I answered. "Yes, it is." I told Kit the story at the corner later. She laughed until tears rolled down her face. "That wasn't too nice," she scolded, "but it was pretty funny." The embarrassing scene at her house with the cats the day before had become history. She promised to help me with math, and I asked her to go to the movies on Saturday night. She said yes. Then she kissed me. Because we were still sitting in a booth at the corner, it was a quick kiss. For a second, I thought about Jessica, who had waved to me in the hallway that morning. Then all thoughts of Jessica were gone. Kit Morrissey was the only girl I could think about. Later, when I walked her home, she didn't ask me to come in. Maybe she didn't want a repeat of the previous afternoon. Well, neither did I. Humming to myself, I turned off Canyon Drive and headed for home. When I reached Fear Street, clouds covered the sun. The air grew cool. 3 blocks from home, I heard the first meow. I sucked in a breath and glanced behind me. A black cat trotted down the center of the street. I turned and started walking faster. My house stood 2.5 blocks away. I heard a hiss to my left. My eyes darted in that direction. A scraggly tomcat shot across the lawn ahead of me. I picked up my pace. The black cat behind me hissed. I started to jog. A shiny gold Lexus sat at the corner of the next block. I shot across the street and trotted past the car. Glancing back, I saw a pair of Siamese cats drop out of an oak tree. They landed on the roof of the Lexus, hopped down to the pavement, and joined the black cat, the tomcat, and a striped cat. "They're following me," I realized. "They're chasing me." The cats broke into a run. I tore down the street and ran through the intersection. I could see my house up ahead. My legs pumped. Sweat dripped down my forehead. My heart thudded loudly. I chanced one last glance over my shoulder. There were at least 10 cats now. 10 yowling cats running hard, closing in. 10 cats chasing me, eyes glowing, paws hitting the pavement, so silently, silent as ghosts. Chapter 16. Could I outrun them? I had to try. They're only cats, I told myself. Or were they? Since when do cats travel in packs? And since when do cats chase after people? My knee throbbed as I ran. My side ached. I glanced back and saw at least a dozen of them, eyes glowing like fire, paws pounding the sidewalk, tails stiff and straight behind them. "Oh!" A low moan escaped my throat. I gasped for breath. My driveway stood only a few yards away. "Hey!" I cried out as I felt a claw dig into the back of my leg. I turned and saw 2 cats leap at my back. I ducked and they flew over my head. Keeping low, my leg throbbing, I turned up the drive, scrambled over the low rose bushes that lined the yard, and dove for the front stoop. I grabbed the doorknob, twisted it, tugged. Oh! Locked. Of course it was locked. I shoved my hand into my jeans pocket, fumbled for the key. Could I get inside before the cats attacked? I pulled out the key and dropped it. It clattered on the stoop and came to a rest at the edge of the straw welcome mat. "No!" I cried out, and bent to pick it up. Turned to see if the cats were about to attack. The cats. No cats. Huh? I swallowed hard. They were gone. Vanished. How? I choked out. But I didn't really care how they had disappeared so quickly, or why they had appeared at all. I just wanted to get inside. Inside, where I was safe. I expected trouble over the rat incident, but nobody said a word about it. Gail passed me in the hall and didn't even glance my way. Jessica also acted cold. She must have heard about me and Kit, I figured, probably from Ricky, but there wasn't much I could do about it. I hoped Jessica wouldn't be too hurt. She seemed sweet. I liked her a lot, but Kit was awesome. In one of my afternoon classes, Ricky sneered at me. Then she raised her hand and made cat-clawing motions in the air. Later, I practiced with a team for the first time in a week. Barry, Dwayne, and I slipped back into our scoring routine as though I'd never been gone. Kit and I studied math at my house until after 9 that night. Before she left, we kissed again, and again. The only time I didn't worry about what had been happening to me was when I spent time with Kit. She made everything okay. The phone rang. My eyes snapped open. I glanced at the clock next to my bed. 1:37 a.m. Who could be calling at this hour? I picked up the receiver. "Hello?" I said groggily. Silence. "Hello?" I sang, annoyed. "Meow?" "Ricky, cut it out," I snapped. "Meow?" "Ricky?" I asked. Silence. "Hey, who is this?" I cried angrily. Another shrill cat hiss. I hung up the phone. The sound of the hiss lingered in my ears. I had to pull the covers up high to stop shivering. Chapter 17. My English class came right after lunch on my Friday schedule. That meant I spent half the class trying to stay awake, drowsy from having just eaten. I sat in the back of the classroom and stared out at the dark clouds and the heavy rain, and wished for a couple of toothpicks to prop up my eyelids. When the bell rang, I picked up my books and sleepwalked out into the hallway. The biology lab was all the way on the other side of the school and 2 floors down. I hurried along the hallway and tried to remember where I had stashed my bio homework. I pushed through the stairwell door with a few dozen other kids and started down. "Hey, Marty," somebody called. "Good luck tonight." At the landing between floors, the flow of students slipped around 2 people arguing angrily, Dwayne and Ricky. Instead of calling out to them, I kept my mouth shut and followed the herd. "What are you saying, Dwayne?" I heard Ricky snap. "Which word didn't you understand, Ricky?" Dwayne replied nastily. "You're driving Marty nuts. It's time to drop all the cat nonsense. I want you to back off, understand? Marty has to concentrate on basketball." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Ricky sneered as I slipped right by them. "You're threatening me now, right? What are you going to do if I don't leave Marty alone?" "Tell the whole school we lost because of you," Dwayne announced. I hurried past them. All through bio class, I thought about their argument. I decided to have a talk with Dwayne, to tell him I could fight my own battles. No matter how good a friend Dwayne was, I didn't want him speaking for me. Ricky didn't come to the game. I was glad. But as the team jogged onto the court, I noticed Gail sitting on the bleachers. "What's she doing here?" I muttered to Barry, who ran next to me. "Probably up there giving us the evil eye," he grumbled, shaking his head. That game, Dwayne, Barry, and I played better together than ever before. The rest of the team kicked into overdrive as well, and we destroyed the Truesdale Mustangs, 67-42. I don't think I'd ever been happier or more excited. The wing gave us a slot in the state tournament. I figured we couldn't lose, not with our lineup. What I didn't know was that the lineup was about to change. Chapter 18. We had a wild celebration in the locker room. Then everybody left for home, totally psyched and ready for practice the next Monday. As I drove away from school, I felt so excited I could barely see straight. I wondered if getting into the tournament would help me win my basketball scholarship. It better, I thought. That scholarship meant everything to me. Of course, grades were important too. Grades! My books were in my backpack, which was either stashed in the locker room or somewhere in the gym. "Man," I scowled. Then I did a U-turn in the middle of Division Street and drove back to the school. When I turned into the student parking lot, all the lights had been turned out. I guessed even the maintenance staff had gone home. My headlights washed over the back of the school. Something flashed in the lights. The back door of the gym clanged off the brick wall. Gail's red hair flew behind her as she tore across the parking lot. I watched her disappear into the darkness. "Huh," I murmured. "What is she doing here?" I barely caught a glimpse of her face, but she seemed to be frantic. I wondered if she might be chasing somebody. I stepped out of the car and searched for her, but it was too dark to see beyond the parking lot. I jogged over to the door Gail had left open. Good thing, I thought. Without the maintenance crew around to open the door, I would never have gotten back in. I stepped into the dark hallway. One yellow light burned halfway between the exit door and the double doors to the gym. My sneakers squeaked on the tile floor. The sound echoed in the empty hall. The wind blew the door shut behind me, and I jumped. "Whoa, take it easy," I told myself out loud. I stepped into the dark gym and shuffled to the right. I ran my palm up and down the wall until finally I found a light switch. I flipped it up. Light flooded the gym. I spotted my backpack at one corner of the street side bleachers. I sighed with relief and trotted over to get it. As I bent to pick it up, I saw something under the bleachers. A shoe? No. I squinted harder. What was attached to the shoe? A leg? Oh, a low moan escaped my throat. My backpack fell from my hands. I crept over to the form, dropped to my knees to see under the bleachers. My hand sank into something wet and sticky. I jerked it up. Blood, still warm. A shudder swept down my body. Without thinking, I wiped my hand on my jeans and gaped at the body sprawled under the bleachers, slashed and torn. The face, the skin, clawed to pieces. The shirt ripped and slashed, covered with blood, soaked with blood. But I could still see that it was a Hawaiian shirt. Dwayne! Dwayne, lying dead and cut, soaked in his own blood, slashed and torn. No! I wailed, and over the sound of my cry from the far bleachers, I heard the meow of a cat.